Welcome to the Tough Love Nephilim series. My name is Eric Rollon. Now, according to Genesis 6, the Nephilim were the offspring of fallen angels and the daughters of men. And today we are going to be talking about one of their tribes, the Amorites. But first, if you haven't already, please smash those like and subscribe buttons and hit that notification bell. Also, if you enjoy the work that I do, then please consider supporting my work on Locals. All donors get exclusive access to all my research papers as soon as I get them posted, with endnotes included, and your support is greatly appreciated. All the links you'll find in my description box below. All right, let's get into this one. Historically, the Amorites were a Canaanite tribe that lived in the hill country of Canaan. They resided east of the Dead Sea, with their territory extending from the Arnon in the south to the mountain range in the north on up to Hebron. The Arnon is the valley just north of Moab, with a river, the Arnon River, running through it that flows west to connect to the Dead Sea. It served as the border between the Amorite territory and Moab. Now, some of the named regions in the Amorites' territory were Hazazon Tamar, Genesis 14:7, Heshbon, Numbers 21:5, Jazer, Numbers 21:32, Bashan, Numbers 32:33, Gilead, Numbers 32:39, and others. Suffice to say, the area the Amorites controlled was a sizable one. Strong's reference H567 defines the Amorite as such: a sayer, one of the peoples of East Canaan and beyond the Jordan, dispossessed by the Israelite incursion from Egypt. Smith's Bible Dictionary defines the Amorites this way: dwellers on the summits, mountaineers, one of the chief nations who possessed the land of Canaan before its conquest by the Israelites. As dwelling on the elevated portions of the country, they are contrasted with the Canaanites, who were the dwellers in the Shephelah, or lowlands, and the two thus formed the main broad divisions of the Holy Land, Numbers 13:29, and see Genesis 14:7, Deuteronomy 1:7, and Deuteronomy 1:20. The Mountain of the Amorites, Deuteronomy 1:44, Joshua 5:1, Joshua 10:6, and Joshua 11:3. They first occupied the barren heights west of the Dead Sea, at the place called afterwards En-Gedi. From this point they stretched west to Hebron. At the date of the invasion of the country, Sihon, their then king, had taken the rich pasture land south of the Jabbok. This rich tract bounded by the Jabbok on the north, the Arnon on the south, the Jordan on the west, and the wilderness on the east. Judges 11:21-22 was perhaps, in the most special sense, the land of the Amorites. Numbers 21:31, Joshua 12:2-3, Joshua 13:10, and Judges 11:21-22. But their possessions are distinctly stated to have extended to the very foot of Hermon, Deuteronomy 3:8, and Deuteronomy 4:48, embracing Gilead and all Bashan, Deuteronomy 3:10, with the Jordan Valley on the east of the river, Deuteronomy 4:49. After the conquest of Canaan, nothing of importance is heard of the Amorites in the Bible. Easton's Bible Dictionary defines the Amorites this way: Highlanders or hillmen, the name given to the descendants of one of the sons of Canaan, Genesis 14:7, called Amorah or Amuri in the Assyrian and Egyptian inscriptions. On the early Babylonian monuments, all Syria, including Palestine, is known as the land of the Amorites. The southern slopes of the mountains of Judea are called the Mount of the Amorites, Deuteronomy 1:7, Deuteronomy 1:19, and Deuteronomy 1:20. They seem to have originally occupied the land stretching from the heights west of the Dead Sea, Genesis 14:7, to Hebron, Genesis 13. Compare with Genesis 13:8, Deuteronomy 3:8, Deuteronomy 4:46-48. Embracing all Gilead and all Bashan, Deuteronomy 3:10, with the Jordan Valley on the east of the river, Deuteronomy 4:49, and the land of the two kings of the Amorites, Sihon and Og, Deuteronomy 31:4, Joshua 2:10, and Joshua 9:10. The 5 kings of the Amorites were defeated with great slaughter by Joshua in Joshua 10:10. They were again defeated at the waters of Merom by Joshua, who smote them till there were none remaining, Joshua 11:8. It is mentioned as a surprising circumstance that in the days of Samuel, there was peace between them and the Israelites, in 1 Samuel 7:14. The discrepancy supposed to exist between Deuteronomy 1:44 and Numbers 14:45 is explained by the circumstances that the terms Amorites and Amalekites are used synonymously for the Canaanites. In the same way, we explain the fact that the Hivites of Genesis 34:2 are the Amorites of Genesis 48:22. Compare Joshua 10:6, Joshua 11:19 with 2 Samuel 21:2. Also, Numbers 14:45 with Deuteronomy 1:44. The Amorites were warlike mountaineers. They are represented on the Egyptian monuments with fair skin, light hair, blue eyes, aquiline noses, and pointed beards. They are supposed to have been men of great stature. Their king Og is described by Moses as the last of the remnant of the giants in Deuteronomy 3:11. Both Sihon and Og were independent kings. Only one word of the Amorite language survives, Shenir, the name they gave to Mount Hermon, Deuteronomy 3:9. Now, the first time we encounter the Amorites is post-flood in Genesis 14, when they, along with several other Canaanite tribes, are conquered by Chedorlaomer and his confederacy of kings. The Amorites lived in Hazazon Tamar in Canaan at that time, Genesis 14:7. In Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, the Jewish general turned historian, Flavius Josephus, names Amorite as ancestor to the Amorites. Noah's son Ham fathered Canaan, Genesis 10:6, who was the progenitor of the post-flood Nephilim tribes. Amorite was the son of Canaan, from whom the Amorites descend, Genesis 10:15-18. Genesis 10:15-18 reads, Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, the Jebusite, the Amorite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, the Arkite, the Sinite, the Arvadite, the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward the families of the Canaanites were spread abroad. The territory of the Canaanite extended from Sidon, going toward Gerar, as far as Gaza, and going toward Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. In Numbers 13, when Israel's spies returned from their 40-day reconnaissance mission in the land of Canaan, they gave their report of the land and its fierce inhabitants. They identified the Amorites along with the Amalekites, Hittites, Jebusites, and Canaanites residing in the land as the descendants of Anak. Numbers 13:28-29. Now, after this initial report, Caleb steps up to calm everyone down and encourage them, but 10 of the 12 spies are having none of it. In their continued report, Numbers 13:30-33 describes the sons of Anak not just as people of great height, but as Nephilim. Numbers 13:30-33 reads, Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we will certainly prevail over it. But the men who had gone up with him said, We are not able to go up against the people, for they are too strong for us. So they brought a bad report of the land which they had spied out to the sons of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to spy out is a land that devours its inhabitants. And all the people whom we saw in it are people of great stature. We also saw the Nephilim there. The sons of Anak are part of the Nephilim, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Now the Anakim were enormous, fierce, and powerful giants, as Deuteronomy 9 points out. Deuteronomy 9:1-2 reads, Hear Israel, you are crossing the Jordan today to go in to dispossess nations greater and mightier than you, cities that are great and fortified to heaven, a people who are great and tall, the sons of the Anakim, whom you know and of whom you have heard it said, Who can stand against the sons of Anak? Anak was the son of the Nephilim Arba, Joshua 15:13 and 21:11. And according to Joshua 14:15, Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. In Amos 2, when God is pronouncing judgment on Israel for not following his commands, he recounts some of his mighty deeds. In so doing, he describes the Amorites he defeated for Israel as being absolutely monstrous in size and strength. Amos 2, 9-10 reads, "Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, and who was as strong as the oaks. I destroyed his fruit above and his roots beneath. Also it was I who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, and led you 40 years in the wilderness, to possess the land of the Amorite." Now, throughout the scriptures, Israel has 7 battles with the Amorites. The first is in Numbers 14:39-45, with a recap in Deuteronomy 1:41-46, which they lost. Number 2 is in Numbers 21:21-30, with a recap in Deuteronomy 3:1-6, which they won. Number 3 is in Numbers 21:31-35, with recaps in Deuteronomy 3:1-6 and Judges 11:14-22, which they won. Number 4 is in Joshua 7:1-12, which they lost. Number 5 is in Joshua 8:1-29, which they won. Number 6 is in Joshua 10:1-27, which they won. And number 7 is in Judges 1:27-36, which they lost. There are also 3 instances inside the Bible that Israel battles with the hill country residents, where the Amorites are not actually mentioned by name. Number 1 is in Joshua 10:27-43, where the hill country is mentioned, and Israel won that one. Number 2 is in Joshua 11:1-23. The hill country is mentioned along with 12 conquered areas. Israel won that one too. And the third and final one is in Judges 1:1-26. The hill country is mentioned, and Israel won that battle too. Now, Israel tragically failed to completely eradicate all the Canaanite tribes during their conquest of the Promised Land, Judges 1:27-36. And against God's orders to utterly wipe out the Canaanites in Deuteronomy 7:20, Israel reached a period of peace between themselves and the Amorites, 1 Samuel 7:3-14. Once Israel grew strong enough, however, they opted to put those whom they eventually could subdue into forced labor under them, Judges 1:27-36, Joshua 17:13, and 1 Kings 9:20-21. The last canonical mention of the Amorites is in Amos 2, when God is pronouncing his judgment on Israel for their sins. All that said, the Amorites were definitively a Nephilim tribe. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned a thing or two. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.